What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steve.
I'm Lindsay.
Today we're going to be checking out the Grumpy Guide to Class. I've actually had this on my list for probably over a year at this point. This is something that I've been wanting to check out for quite some time now. That is the British class system, which obviously I'm sure you knew that's what we were going to check out here by the title.
Yeah.
But supposedly, the Grumpy Guide, or something about the Grumpy something, which is what we're going to be checking out here today, is some sort of a humorous take on more serious subjects or topics.
Oh, okay. It's a little more fun than cut and dry.
Right. I believe. Let us know in the comments, guys. But from what I understand, the Grumpy Guide was a series a while back.
Like a TV show?
Yeah, I believe so. And I don't really know anything about it. I just remember hearing that somewhere, that this Grumpy Guide did a number of different topics, not just class. If I'm not mistaken. Again, let us know in the comments if that's correct. But been wanting to check out the British class system forever because honestly, I don't think we have something like that here.
No.
I can't think of how you would compare the class system here versus the class system in the UK. Because here it seems like the class system is more cut and dry.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably like more classist parts of our society, like Upper East Side New York or something.
Right.
Like, I'm sure that's over Beverly Hills, California.
Right.
Somewhere.
Like,
but I feel like most other areas in the U.S. we all kind of commingle and.
Yes. Some people are called, low class, and some people are called high class. The high class generally has to do with wealth, it seems like. But
whereas I don't think, is that the case in the UK?
I don't know. I know there's some major differences here.
Yeah.
That's all I know. I picked up that there are major differences, but I don't really understand how the class system works. That's why I want to explore this. But instead of rambling, guys, we're just going to jump in here and learn about the British class system.
Here at Grumpy Mission Control, our job is to identify subjects that the cheerfully challenged find
Cheerfully challenged.
like the class system. Instilled into us since we were nippers, whether you're old-fashioned working class, a hooray, a toff, up and coming, down and out, or a maddening rich so-and-so who needs a slap, the whole subject of class, wherever
I didn't
you fit
understand
into
any
it
of that.
and
Me neither.
whatever it is alive and well.
How do I define class? Class.
I really like very, very posh people. I think they're hilarious.
My mum used to get posh when, answering the phone.
My name is Bouquet. That's B-U-C-K-E-T.
Is posh saying being upper class? No.
Though I'm known as a sort of classy son of a bitch.
I'm stonkingly rich up yours.
Only the really upper classes can afford eccentricity, and they do it in spades.
Ordinary people are starving, and we'll never know what it's like. Dude! We've got to make some small gesture to the poor.
It doesn't really matter, as far as I'm concerned, whether your family came over with the Normans or came over in a container.
You stupid man. I think anybody who says that's classy is not classy.
It's like alchemy trying to work out the British class system.
When the new generation grows up, will class cease to matter at all? That's our question tonight.
That is something I am curious about, guys. Obviously, we're just getting into this and we don't really understand how the class system works yet. But do you feel like the class system is still alive and well today as it was, back, say, 20, 30, 40, 50 years and beyond? Or has it lessened as the younger generations have grown up?
I feel like, obviously I'm not part of
The
British
class
society,
system, yeah.
but I feel like as time goes on, it will probably, the gap will just kind of even out more.
I feel like, again, we may be completely not understanding what the class system is at all. We may be completely wrong in our heads what that means. But I do feel like with the internet and everybody becomes...
social media.
Everybody seems to be more on an even playing field, so to speak. Everybody seems to be more interconnected no matter what class you're on, at least here in the U.S.
Well, I think, yeah, but they're also, isn't it, you're born into the class system that you are. So it's not necessarily to do with money.
I don't know. That's what I'm curious about.
So you could become a millionaire, but you wouldn't still be part of the upper class because you weren't born into it. I think that's how it works.
That's interesting. Okay.
I've been watching Bridgerton.
Oh yeah, she's been loving that show.
I finished season 1.
I've only come in on it, but it looks like a pretty good show.
We have to start our romp through the class system somewhere, so we're better than the head toffs, the royal family.
The toffs?
The ones with all the money. Our money, oddly. And 2.4 stately homes per head. We all need people to look up to hold up as role models, and they presumably set the ultimate example for us. Don't they?
The British royal family are rather provincial, in a way, head of a barbarian offshore tribe. Not necessarily people of great class or culture.
There were the photographs of Buckingham Palace that came out of how the Queen actually lived, and it was just like a caricature. It was like she'd had Dick Emery in to do her interior decoration.
The Queen is supposed to have a magnificent collection of glass animals. Imagine all that money. And that's what you think to do with it.
Look at Princess Anne's wardrobe. The woman has been wearing the same clothes from, she was sort of about 15.
This pink satin dress with voluminous arms as the height of fashion in
Wow.
1955.
I was going to say that looks
Tuesday,
80s.
16 years later, the outfit received another outing. The scissors had been at work, slimming the sleeves for the new millennium. This made its debut
I
at the
love
Chelsea
that.
Flower Show in 1987, to be reborn at a film premiere 7 years later.
Apparently, at Christmas time, the Christmas presents they give each other are really hysterical. They give each other things like toilet brushes.
What?
Is that serious? Okay, well, I can imagine if I was royalty and I had
literally you could get anything.
Yeah, pretty much. I had, generally speaking, nearly unlimited means, within reason, obviously. I can imagine that. I can get anything I want to. At that point, it's you would just want to give funny stuff because you can get all the serious stuff that you need or want anytime.
And nail files.
Granny, I've got some winkles.
I recognize those puppets.
Winkles, you see.
What are winkles?
Visible to winkles. And a bottle of milk stout. I'll be seeing you, that old fruit. It appears me breakfast is prepared.
The funny thing is, the Queen Mother looked to me always a bit like a pearly queen, the way she dressed. And I thought, how much further down market could you go?
Oh, my old man's a dustman. He wears
what?
Thrifty. Naff. And the Queen Mother down market, well, I never.
What
Queen Mother's the one on the
is that they're wearing?
Maybe the royals are not as posh as we think they are. Starting to like them now.
I remember meeting a creakingly posh woman, and she said, "Oh, everybody knows the royal family are naff."
Naff?
What does naff mean?
Next rung down from the royals.
Okay, we're about to see the next rung down from the royals, but so.
Naff, is that I feel like they said thrifty.
Naff, is that what that is?
I don't know.
Oh no, I thought that was a type of class, but maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, maybe.
Is that
lower class?
Is posh a type of class? Is that one level of class? Or,
I thought it was just a term.
That's what I was wondering. Or is it just?
Upper class.
I don't even know if this means you're upper class, right? Posh just means that you're behaving a certain way, right? Or you're.
I don't know.
It's not just people that are posh. Certain items are posh too, right?
Yeah.
Certain types of tea, right? Wouldn't that be posh? Or let us know in the comments, guys. It's a little bit confusing.
Royals on our feudal class system are the properly posh, the toffs, the landed gentry, what's left of them, the chinless people with stately piles and names like Chumley Watsit. Who are they?
Chumley
Where are
Watsit.
they? And how do we know if we've accidentally got into conversation with one?
I mean, the thing with the toffs, they talk like that, don't they?
Toff.
And they say words like, they get very excited about words like extraordinary and frightfully and mummy and daddy.
The thing about the very, very upper class people is actually they don't move their mouths when they're speaking. They assume that everybody else is utterly deaf.
They're very loud because they want everybody to look at them and look at them with envious eyes saying, my God, they're posh, they must be so rich.
Tim nice but dim. How do you thick?
The phrase chinless wonder has always amused me. I used to think, what is a chinless wonder? What is a hooray Henry? These chinless people. And then you see them and they are chinless.
I quite like upper class people. I quite like hooray. They don't mug you. You know, they don't chase you down the street. You don't think, oh, there's 6 chinless wonders walking down the alley. I better hide my phone.
The toffs can afford to be nice. The owning class. That's a big clue about the aristocracy. Some of them own entire counties.
Wow.
They have garden ponds
What?
beside the Lake Windermere and front drives as long as the M6. But for all that, perhaps because of that, do they actually have any money?
Okay, so what it seems like is the royal family is a class of their own, but they take on the characteristics of differing levels of class, or maybe classes that may be below them or seemingly below them at some points. Like they were talking about their way some of them dressed or something like that. But this rung, this right below, which is the what did you call it?
I think he said toff.
Toff. They are like the wealthiest people in society, right?
They own a lot. Like own a lot of
Are they
under
the Rothschilds? Maybe.
I don't know.
Are the Rothschilds? Is that German or is that British? I don't even know. Like Rothschilds, I just know them to be like.
It sounds British.
It does sound
but
British.
I don't know.
But that's like a family that I think we all know to be just extremely wealthy.
Yeah.
Just so extraordinary wealthy.
Yes,
you know?
darling.
Yes, darling. Let's go.
I think quite possibly if you're old money, you would be quite hard up because a lot of your money is in land. Unless you sell it, which you sort of can't do. Then you're stuck in the the family house, which hasn't been rewired for 50 years.
You often
Do you have to pay
find
property
people
taxes on that?
relatively Rich
Probably.
are more careful with their money, even a little meaner with their money than the relatively poor.
They live in very big houses with no heating whatsoever and just put on layers and layers of cashmere. Cashmere with got great big
No heating?
holes in, but it's still sort of cashmere.
So is it because the houses are so massive and they were built so long before central heating and air that they just never refitted these mansions with heat? And all they have is fireplaces that don't actually
So
produce
they
enough heat.
they appear wealthy, but really
They're
it's not liquid assets.
Yeah, they appear wealthy because they live in these magnificent
not all of
houses
them, but-
and they have this huge amount of land, but they literally either can't or won't sell it. So then they actually are of much more limited means than they appear. Is that how all toffs are, or is that just a certain layer of toffs? Is it toft?
I think
or
it's
toffs?
toffs, I think.
Okay.
I think.
I think so too.
Poor darlings, of course they're stony broke. For one thing, they will send their children away to be educated, pack them off to toff training school.
Wow.
Pontius,
Toff
toffs,
training
like
school.
other toffs, wouldn't do for them to mix with the proletariat. And anyway, they need to be prepared for a life of luxury and opulence. Buck up. It'll be the making of you.
Few, if any, of the boys will come from working-class homes. Few, if any, will go on to working-class jobs. A high proportion will get top jobs and top incomes. Character building gives public school boys a worldwide reputation for loyalty, dependability, and self-reliance.
The point about boarding schools used to be buying into a class and a community.
That makes sense.
because
Networking,
boarding schools
basically.
made gents.
From an early age.
Reasonable parents wouldn't send their children away to school. Mind you, I've sent 2 of mine away. So
The whole concept of kids now is it costs £100,000 to send a kid to school and university. That's what you've got to factor in. 100. I'm thinking, hope mine's a bit of a duffer, my lad. £100,000.
Wait, what's a duffer?
Doffer.
Doffer.
I think he means dumb.
Really? Is that what that
Like,
means?
And that's just what
Poor kid?
What I'm extrapolating from his context.
Like, this is something I actually wondered about from time to time when I see the really, really wealthy individuals in not just British society, but we're talking about British society. But like a lot of times you do see how they send their kids off to these,
institutions.
these institutions
to be
for
raised, basically.
to be raised, and it's like. I'm left wondering, like, what kind of relationship do these kids end up having with their parents?
Other thing to look out for if you're toff spotting is they like to swan about on their estates. They're big on the outdoors. Go in for a lot of absurdly expensive and gung-ho eccentric sports, usually involving horses and long pointy things. Better still, involving guns. Their speciality is killing feathery animals.
Pigeons shooting.
Doves.
Doves, yes, true.
There's a surprise.
What are you doing today? Right, well, we're going to sports. What's a sport? Right, it's shooting game. Right, what do you have to do? Right, we're going to shoot these birds. Right, how are we going to do it? Well, they're not very good at flying, so to encourage them, we pay poor people to go in and disturb these overfed birds who can hardly get off the ground.
Wait,
so
really?
With our inbred gammy eyes, we'll just fire a load of shots into the air and perhaps hit one of these genetic freak overfed birds, and then I'll be a sporting hero. It's not an Olympic sport, is it? Doesn't count as a sport unless they do it in Olympics.
Okay, along those lines, you've heard of clay pigeon shooting, right? Like target practice?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you load the clay pigeons in the thing and somebody pulls it for you and then you shoot the clay pigeon. Well, I was watching Bridgerton the other day and I guess it makes sense. They used to literally have pigeons in a container and then to target practice they would let one out and you would literally just shoot a real pigeon.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming that's historically accurate.
I found this interesting. What he says, if accurate, that they literally pay poor people to go in and disturb the birds, and that's what they do.
Shake them up.
Wow.
I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, I guess you have to have someone do that to get the birds to fly.
Sandwiched miserably in between top and bottom is the middle class.
Middle class.
Nowhere is the class struggle more prevalent than here in semi-detached suburbia, where the middle classes live with their upwardly mobile pretensions, punishing mortgage repayments and aspirational tastes. Universally ridiculed and universally insecure, they take the most stick from everyone.
The middle class is in the middle panicking because they haven't got the luxury of the trust fund to fall back on, and they haven't got the luxury of not caring.
There is a theory that the middle class have less fun than because they're always striving onwards and upwards.
I have a kind of vague idea that people who read the Daily Mail, but that's as far as it goes.
So desperate are the middle classes to climb the social ladder that their kids are pushed into a punishing timetable of self-improving pursuits, in the hope that they might sneak into Toffland when no one's looking. No wonder the middle classes have such a horrid time.
It's because it is all about self-sacrifice in order to get on and rise up another level or push your children up another level.
One of the things about being middle class is this, pushing your children, and your children are your kind of badges of middle classness. So one of them's got to learn the flute.
These poor kids, they're ballet, cello, everything in the world.
I never thought I'd see the day where I would check out league tables for school performance and think about a house where we lived, catchment area and that sort of thing.
I don't think the middle class are the most unhappy class. I just think they're the best at moaning.
Okay, that I find really, really interesting.
Mhm.
Do you think that, like, middle class is a class that we actually have here, obviously?
I was going to say, I can see the similarities between our middle class and British middle class.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that in modern society, we do tend to push kids into a bunch of different extracurriculars to improve themselves and better themselves and overschedule them, and then they're burnt out and living like mini adults, basically.
Yes.
Which when Sophia was younger, I found myself like feeling that urge, and I had to like step back, and I was like, no, like,
I think
she can choose what she wants to do, and she doesn't need like 5 different activities.
No, I don't think it's good to like push them into too many things at one time.
Especially when they're younger.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that in today's society, we tend to, like you said, treat them like mini adults, and we want to have them doing something at all times instead of allowing them just to sit back and be kids and live like kids.
I think that's why there's so much, part of the reason why there's so much anxiety in kids now, because there's just so much stress on them.
Moaning middle classes as if...
Moaning middle class.
The smart plan is to admit to being middle class, but play up your working class roots. Boast that you had to break the ice in your outside loo. Get some credibility that way. Pretend you were brought up in a paper bag, preferably in the north.
You get a room full of people, you say, what class are you? Most ordinary people would say working class. It's a badge of honour, isn't it? See, inverted snobbery, it's the kind of, oh, no. yeah, I've made a few quid. I've got a nice house. Kids got a private school. But you know what? My dad used to work shifts.
Even though we're quite obviously all terribly middle class these days, there are still people that will become ridiculously boring about the fact that they're working class or that they come from somewhere in North Englandfordshire.
We used to live in this tiny old tumble-down house with great big holes in the roof.
House? You were lucky to live in a house. We used to live in one room, all 26 of us, no furniture, half the floor was missing. We're all huddled together in one corner for fear of falling.
That sounds like every politician ever.
It does.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I can't tell you, like literally every politician here in America has the same story.
Class family.
Yes.
And you look up, your house was not working class.
No, definitely not.
You were lucky to have a room. We used to have to live in the corridor. Oh, we used to dream of living in a corridor.
We were always considered ourselves working class posh. That was what we were. You know, we had
Working
pot noodle
class
on a plate.
posh.
We had our chip butties in triangles. Not the big issue delivered. That was how we worked.
I do come from a very working class background, and it's not, you know, there's no scandal in our family. There was never a time when somebody had to sell the family silver. So it's not like I had to worry that nothing's been passed down. There was nothing to pass down. The only thing passed down in our family was a propensity to put on weight around the jowls, I would suppose. But, you know, and a love of a battered sausage.
Jarbo.
Yep, Eddie Child allowed.
Right, how much is it?
180 quid.
Brilliant. 180 lottery tickets, please, Radley.
The single biggest difference, I would imagine, between the working class and the middle class when it comes to money is, you know, the working class would spend the last quid on a scratch card because that might make the middle class. And the middle class, the last thing they would do is buy a scratch card because that would make them working class.
Okay, that's interesting. The working class and the middle class being separated in a class system here. Here in the U.S., I feel like the working class and the middle class are considered pretty much the same
blur
thing.
together.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can
I feel like working class here would be what you would consider like blue collar. I don't know. There's like low class, which isn't really a class, but we just call some people that. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it's more of a derogatory thing.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like the middle class has this huge, like...
Yeah, it's a very wide scale.
I mean, we even have something here, low middle class, and then you have middle class, you have upper middle class, yeah. And then from there, I don't even know what you call high class. I don't even know what you call them, honestly.
Yeah.
Wealthy? I don't.
The 1%.
The 1% maybe. I have no idea. But yeah, that's interesting.
Now that being working class is so fashionable, and the poorer the better, it's quite hard to define what working class actually is. In the old days, it was easy. They went to work in a factory in identical flat caps. They came home to their tea and lived in black and white cobbled streets. How quaint. Easier still, all you had to do to find out whether someone was working class was to ask what their father did.
What does your daddy do?
My father is a doctor.
A doctor? What does your daddy do?
He's a machine minder, sir. He's a chauffeur, sir.
A chauffeur?
Yes. He's a solicitor, sir. He's a postman, sir. He's a lighterman, sir.
A lighterman?
Sir. He's a plasterer, sir.
But now plasterers earn more than solicitors, and plumbers earn more in a day than middle managers earn in a week. Trade, as it used to be called, is suddenly the new posh.
It used to be really easily understandable what class you were in by your job. If you were a bricklayer, you were working class. If you were a doctor, you were middle class. If you worked in finance or you were an explorer or a basket weaver, then you were upper class. But now it's been completely turned upside down.
It used to be that if somebody said they were, say, a carpenter or a gardener, that almost by definition meant they were working class. But I mean now, maybe I'm talking specifically about North London, but I mean half the so-called gardeners I meet are actually sort of Theon Toby something or other. I mean, they're always a sort of thicko younger son of some aristocratic.
So the children of the middle class go to university and do media studies, and then if they're lucky, they get a job as a runner for a TV company, earning 120 quid a week, if they're lucky, and having to make the tea. Whereas the ones who go to plumbing school and learn how to do something useful are earning 50 grand a year.
I'd say that's pretty similar here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine though, like that is a very interesting thing that if you go back, I don't know, decades ago, there's a lot of the trade stuff would have been, the income would have been much lower compared to, say, these a lawyer or a doctor. But now a plumber, especially if he has his own business, or electrician with his own business, can make many, many times that per year. It does very well.
Especially if you're also utilizing social media to make money.
Right.
Like exposing your business in that way.
I think that's another thing. I think maybe there's something about there's more self-employment nowadays. I mean,
yeah.
And so like people, instead of like,
relying on this is what you get.
Yeah,
you have the means to increase
do
that.
your own thing. And so I think that maybe that's the trades people a lot of times they're self-employed, and so they're able to profit more than they would have in the past.
Yeah.
And I guess they just get paid more per hour than they did back in the day as well, though.
People's jobs defining their class now. Better to look at someone's postcode to place them in the class category. Exactly where you live and what sort of house or flat or loft or apartment you live in is critical. The class clues are all there if you know where to look. It's so much more complicated than upper, middle and lower. It's more A1, B1, C1, C2 apparently.
You know what that reminds me of?
What?
That song. We'll never be royal.
Royal. You can call me String Bean.
Because they talk about postcodes in that song. Remember?
Yeah.
And then you have to look at what's inside someone's house to do an accurate class reading.
I think possibly the C1 furnishing is more akin to AB. The C2 perhaps tend to go in for
I have no idea.
Kind of furniture,
Yes.
veneered furniture,
Modern.
and china dogs on the mantelpiece, this kind of
Ducks
thing.
in flight on the wall.
Artificial flowers, ghastly plastic flowers, this kind of thing.
I never make rash judgments about people's houses based on their furniture at all.
Okay, so your house is the big giveaway, and what you put in your house and how you arrange it all is critical class-wise. First big class dilemma, what to do with your windows. Nothing to do with keeping daylight out, and everything to do with social status, apparently.
Do you have shutters or do you have net curtains? Those are the defining minutiae now of the new class list.
What about me? I don't want any. I want it to be completely bare.
Well, that's because you don't walk around in little to nothing in the house.
Well, very true, but I love the idea of nothing on windows. I love the light all the time.
I do, but at night you want them covered.
I guess. Well,
I want bright light during the day, and then at night dark.
In certain rooms, I don't care about like kitchen. I don't ever want it covered.
Society.
If you have lots heavily patterned carpets, common as muck. Unless they're rugs, in which case it's fine. The further up the income scale you go, solid coloured carpets or seagrass matting.
Well, there used to be a floor covering rule amongst certain kinds of upper middle class people that wood must show. What they meant was fitted carpets are terrible, fitted carpets enough.
I think an absolute rule of thumb is you cannot have anything in a house pretending to be something else. So, for example, if you want lino in your kitchen, that's fine, but you don't have lino
linoleum
with a tile pattern on it. So what is it, lino, or is it pretend tiles? You mustn't have anything that's pretending to be something else.
But you can get clever with floors. Take an ordinary floor, class it up. Buy a croquet set. Have to cover up the Harrods sign, that's too vulgar. Get a gym bag, posh school scarf, some riding stuff, green wellies. Now it's a marvellous toff corner. Shelves are tricky, videos v bad, books v good. Bung in loads of them. Doesn't matter if you haven't read half of them, makes you look clever.
If your walls are painted white with a hint of sisal, and
What's
right
sisal?
over in the far corner is one chair, posh. Or possibly wanker, I don't know.
Of course, the exception to this is the irony.
Okay, so they're saying that you're either if you have
If
very
it's on purpose, then you're posh. But if it's just because that's all you can afford.
Oh.
Like a bachelor pad style.
Well, I tell you, myself, I growing up, like after I became an adult and I was out on my own and whatnot, like I did not care about furniture. Lindsay knows this. When we met, I had literally had no furniture because I just didn't care. She likes furniture, and
I feel like that's a lot of single guys, especially
probably
when they're younger.
Yeah, like I just didn't need all that stuff, and honestly, if I was still by myself, I could care less. But I know that with a family, I have to have furnishings to make it work. But
there's a good rule to cite if you find you've dropped a class clanger. Claim your garden gnomes or flying ducks are ironic, but you have to tell people you're being ironic, otherwise it doesn't work. People would just think you have no taste.
What's anybody doing with a jukebox in their house? Oh, no, that's kind of 70s ironic. No, that just makes you look like Alvin Stardust.
The irony rule doesn't work with names, of course. Your position on the class scale is scarily visible because it gives away your birth class for all to see.
Names are important, yeah.
Oh, I think we all know a posh Christian name when we get it. It's Piers and Peregrine.
Upper class names that will always be upper class will be Sebastian,
Arabella, Susanna, Fiona.
Tarquin, Tabitha, Sebastian.
Or they have nicknames. Mindy, Bunty, Nemo. It just
Nemo.
fun, you know, because the thing is that when I was very, very, very little, we had a nanny, and she didn't know how to pronounce my name. So we just, you know, I'm getting wah.
Posh names end in O, don't they? Hugo.
Posh names end in O.
Oh.
You know, I was just thinking,
Probably
like,
not necessarily for girls.
I believe I've never personally in my entire life met a Sebastian in person. I can only think of one time I've ever actually seen Sebastian, and that was only on a movie.
I feel like I did when I was really, really little. I want to say we had not we personally, but there was a foreign exchange student, and their name was Sebastian.
If I say the name Sebastian and I tell you it's on a movie,
I think it's The Little Mermaid.
Oh, really? That's, really?
Oh, Cruel Intentions.
Yeah.
But
and think about it, they were definitely upper class there.
Yeah, that's true.
There's something to the name thing.
Milo. Rollo.
Milo.
Middle class names end in E. Katie, Phoebe, Emily.
Josh and Tom and Jack.
Working class names will often sort of land with a thud. Jade. Or their place names. Chelsea.
Kylie. Wayne.
Snobbish? Us? Surely not. We pretend that class doesn't matter to us, that it's a pointlessly outdated badge system, but we're all guilty of class consciousness, be honest.
My mother was actually hysterical, probably the biggest snob I've ever known. And I remember when I was about 15, she said to me, you can marry outside your nationality, marry outside your religion, but for God's sake, don't marry outside your class.
But should you wish to be the class police, what are the sort of interrogation techniques you need to learn?
There's a lot of feeling around. People do, without exactly saying, what sort of house do you live in? And what do you do? And how much money you earn?
Where does she live? Or what does her father do?
And if you live there, do you know the exes?
Whereabouts in Battersea? Just off near the bridge.
Does it take you very long to get to work from there? And where do you work?
Is it a Georgian house? Is it a Georgian house? Is it a Georgian house or is it a terrace?
It's quite a long way from the city, for instance, isn't it? From Enfield.
Which end of the terrace? Is it that end? By the garage?
How is it at the weekend, or are you there at the weekends? Meaning, have you got a house in the country?
The discerning class detective can place people exactly, depending on whether you dress for dinner or have your tea with a teapot on the table and some chips and gravy. And wherever you sit on the class ladder, there's always someone to sneer down at. Snobbery, it seems, is something we learn from our mothers. And worst class clanger of all is common.
Common was a term of abuse. She's common. You know, but we were common. Don't know what my mum was saying. You know, we had nothing.
When I was growing up,
Common.
the worst thing that you could be told was that something that you had done was considered common.
I found the common people really rather exciting because I went to a girls' grammar school and there weren't very many common people there. I tried to attach myself to the most common ones, and they were always called Gail.
The word common means to me frequently to be encountered.
Common, if you use the word, shows that you're rather common, because only common people use the word common.
Isn't common like average, kind of?
Oh, yeah, I feel like it would be just nothing special, you know?
Yeah, like you're not. Well, here's the thing. I think, aren't we now in a class below working class? Isn't that what they're saying when they're saying about common? Isn't that what?
Ooh, yeah, maybe.
Because we went from...
It's common, like commoner, like the lowest.
I don't know if it's the lowest, but like we went from the royal family to the toffs to middle class to working class to now they're saying common or maybe commoner. Is that what they would describe this as?
I don't know.
Let us know in the comments, guys. Do we have that correct? That commons or the commoners or something along that lines would be now below working class? But that doesn't make any sense to me because I feel like working class would be considered the commoners. Personally, I'm thinking commoner is just someone common. The average person is working
like
class,
average
right?
Joe. We can say that here.
That's not a negative thing to me.
Well, some people like upper class people, it would be
right. I think some people might look at that as negative. I'm saying, to me, I'm thinking like working class, the average guy out there, whether they're a plumber or they work as an accountant, all that seems to be working class to me.
Yeah.
And that's the commoner, the average. But I'm not sure if that is how. It sounds like they're not using that in the UK in the same way we would. It sounds like it was used as more of a derogatory term. Let us know in the comments if that's correct, guys.
Some of us had to work hard at having the common drummed out of us, perfecting our airs and graces, learning how to be ladylike, and how to get out of a frankly silly contraption that was supposed to be a car.
Forward, both legs together. That's very much better. Come on, girls, now one.
Scary women with twin sets taught the ancient art of elocution.
It was a huge obsession in the 50s, learning to talk posh.
Oh, elocution in those days was part of a young lady's
What is it?
education.
Elocution. I think
Elegance. Eloquence.
Yeah.
Okay.
The old rolled gold bowl, 6 thick thistle sticks, 6 thick thistle sticks.
How now, brown cow? I beg your pardon.
How now, brown cow?
In your garden.
Father's car is a Jaguar's car. A very fast car it is. Or Dad's got a smart Jag and it's well fast.
My mum, to me, sounds quintessentially middle class, much more middle class than me, which is really weird because she is, or was, much more working class, but because she got a scholarship, she also got elocution lessons, and so she was transformed from having a broad Geordie working class accent
Interesting.
into Queen's English.
My husband and I are here at your invitation to mark the end of a Commonwealth journey which has occupied us day and night for the last 6 months.
The Queen's English, or BBC English, was very posh, very clipped and very scary. Everyone who was anyone had the same, basically, toff accent.
This is the BBC Home Service. Here is the news.
This is London Calling. Here is the news read by Derek Baker.
You're tuned to the General Overseas Service of the BBC.
Here's the news. A thaw is on the way, but it's frost again tonight in many parts.
Because I have an accent that is no accent, I don't call this any accent. It used to be called the BBC, read the news accent. Even though that would now be considered to be too posh, probably. But when I was started as an actor, you had to talk like this, otherwise you didn't have a job.
Wow.
If you want to appear posher than you are, or indeed less posh than you are, it helps to have a few rules up your sleeve to use in conversation. You'd better listen to this. It's seriously important stuff.
The upper class are in complete denial about the existence of vowels. Vowels are removed from absolutely everything.
A lot of people pronounce it research. But upper class people axiomatically will say research.
Research.
Like that. Dilemma. Whoever she might be. Dilemma. Well, it's dilemma.
When you meet the Queen,
That's how we say it.
That is how we say it.
Mom. You've got to call her ma'am. It's always clipped. It's always very to the point.
There's that very sort of slightly swallowed. Really, I'm showing no emotions at all here. I have no feelings. It's all impervious to everything.
The thing is to exaggerate enormously things that are fantastically unimportant. The most glorious boiled potato I've ever had. The most extraordinary, astonishing, and glorious boiled potato. Whereas, rather boring losing an arm.
Do you see what I mean? Do you get me?
Juicy. Which means see it as I see it.
Okay, that's crazy because like as I'm sitting here and watching him and her to a certain extent, I literally in my head I'm picturing how I've heard King Charles speak.
You know, that's enough from you, thank you.
I look down on him because I am upper class. I look up to him because he is upper class. But I look down on him because he is lower class. I am middle class. I know my place.
These days, we've all got much
kinda
more
sad.
about disguising our birth class. Get the hang of some key vocabulary and you can slide up and down the class scale as you please. First vocab test, the smallest room in the house. You'll have to use the right word to describe it. So in your house, what's this known as?
No, bathroom.
Bathroom here, but that's, I don't think that's the word they use. Loo, I feel like is probably
The water closet.
would be the upper class.
I don't know for sure, but like that's what I'm guessing.
But I feel like Lou would be like more of a common.
Yes, and we know there is no bath in all bathrooms. But generally speaking, I think it's just most
Or restroom.
Yeah, restroom was the other one.
Bathroom.
Restroom seems to be what you describe a bathroom when it's out somewhere.
Oh wait, maybe Lou is the fancier term and toilet would be the common term.
Or maybe that's the opposite.
I don't know. Let's find out.
Let's find out.
I usually call it the can. I call it the loo.
The loo.
Well, smallest room in the house is the toilet.
The smallest room in the house? I should say the official study of the vicarage.
Well, what do you mean, the toilet?
Now that I'm grown up, I say lavatory. I say loo, but I found out a bit of lavatory. Loo.
If I'm in a store asking, I wouldn't ask where's the ladies' room or the powder room, but I might say where are the toilets.
I say loo, yeah.
Toilet.
Toilet. It's so hard, isn't it? Toilet.
I don't like that. I don't like it.
Surprised if the Queen doesn't say, I'm going to the toilet now, just to be sort of, you know, it's that inverted snobbery, isn't it?
Do I say loo, toilet, or lavatory? I say toilet. Or bog.
I have to say I do get annoyed at toilet.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Pardon. Things that just make you go, eek. Now, I would say that was more about style rather than class, but other people would just call me a snob.
Here's another tricky one.
Okay, hold on, guys. Like, I find it so fascinating that literally not one of them used the term bathroom or restroom.
Yeah.
Not one single, like, they,
I think
they
that's
said
a very
different
American
types.
thing.
It must be. That's so interesting to me.
These innocent-looking things are for some reason a whopping great giveaway. What you call them is loaded with class information.
Silverware?
I think they're talking about napkins.
I use serviettes. I'd rather have molten lava poured in my ears than ever say serviette.
I don't have either of them, I'm afraid. Kitchen room.
You can't ask me the serviette napkin question because I'm fully aware that the use of the word serviette will mark you out as working class forever.
Serviette.
So I do have napkins now.
Napkins.
And I've actually got little rings that go around them.
Napkin rings, VNAF, silly, everyone knows that. Another trick.
I would call that a napkin.
This room, what word do you use?
Living room.
It'll say
No,
it's about you.
that, well, it depends on if it has a TV in it or not.
I disagree.
If it has a TV,
A den?
it would be the living room or a den.
Mhm.
But
A study?
no, I would
With
say
a-
sitting room. If it only has the couches.
Sitting room?
Yes, if it only has the couches.
No, I've heard that
or the
term.
sofas, whatever you want to call them.
I've heard that term before, but like I can't think of ever.
Sitting room is where you would like socialize.
I understand
and
that.
talk
Like
and
growing
hang
up, I would call that the den.
Oh, I would never have a lounge.
Lounge.
I have a drawing room.
I call it a sitting room, actually.
Sitting room.
Not living room. Sitting room. Is that posh?
What we need is head boy of posh, someone to give us the definitive strategy on posh vocab.
Anything that's got a bit of a French twang to it is definitely unposh. So serviette is really horrible. Napkin, of course it's a napkin. Napkin sounds British, sounds posh. Toilet, no. Lavatory, yes. Or loo, even better, because it's tailored down. Lounge, no, it's French.
Lounge.
Comes from chaise longue, it's horrible. Sitting room, because you sit in it. Or drawing room, because you withdraw into it. But to have a drawing room, you have to have a sitting room as well.
I was wondering why it was called that.
Yes, fine, Lawrence, we got the general idea now. come the grumpy revolution when no one gives a stuff anymore where you went to school or whether you have fish knives or are vulgar enough to have bought your own furniture, and the meritocracy has kicked in, then class will be consigned to history, only to be found in the Blue Peter time capsule. For now, we seem to be stuck with it, but the point of it rather escapes us.
You know, you don't see anywhere in the world the same obsession with class. I don't think there's any other country in the world where you can tell somebody's class the moment they open their mouth. When you could tell the moment they say their first sentence where their father went to school. Only in Britain would you do that. And only in Britain does anybody think it's remotely important.
Wow.
It really is so interesting just how involved the class system is or was. Might not, I mean, there was probably still some lingering entrenched things about the class system, but I do feel like as the years go on, it'll probably become less important.
Yeah, I think so. I'm still confused somewhat on the class system.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
You know, like, I think we need to, like, dive in more to really understand all the nuances when it comes to the British class system.
And see what they really are laid out.
Right, and see them in a block, so to speak. Like, see them like, this is what this class is and means, and then this is what this class is and means. Based off of what we have learned about the British class system here, do you feel like, while we don't really have something that we would call a class system, do you feel like when we talk about class here, do you feel like it is different versus what they're talking about there?
For sure.
I do too.
Yeah. Here, it's pretty much all about money.
Well,
I mean,
no, it's not exactly, because it's okay.
All about.
When it comes to middle class and upper class, it tends to be all about money, because the upper class and the middle class, a lot of times they'll act the same and talk the same and dress the same.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Mannerisms and money, like the way you act and money.
What truly makes it someone is in these upper classes versus the lower classes?
In the US, it's harder to,
I think it is,
pin down. Whereas in the UK, I think it's more about what you're born into. And
yeah, I think you guys in the UK, based off what we've seen here, you have a more drawn out definition of what it means to be in certain classes. And it seems like you guys have more class levels here, because here working class and middle class, I think, would be the same thing. Matter of fact, working class could be actually lower class in some regards as well. It could be, working class seems to go between middle and low class.
And I think, obviously, I feel like you guys put more importance on it than we do. Like here, it's not as much of a focus, depending on what social circle you're in, I guess.
I find this very fascinating.
It is really fascinating.
Guys, let us know in the comments, what do you think about the British class system, number one, but also, like, can you please explain to us a little bit more of, like, how many different levels are there? Is it just the royals, the toffs, and then middle class, working class, possibly commoners or something like that? Is there more to this than just those few levels? And also, guys, if you have any recommendations about what we should explore in terms of the class system to kind of understand this on a deeper level, please let us know in the comments. But I think that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions about this video or others. And don't forget to subscribe to continue to follow us on our journey to discover anything and everything about the UK and Ireland. Until next time, guys. Peace.
Bye.